gonna be fun. We got a nice hotel, you know.
That's cool.
And I get the hotel for free because we travel a lot, and I get the points.
Hey.
Yeah, it's always nice, and I was able to upgrade to the Ramada with the 2 queen beds and the pool, so
Hmm.
I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah.
IMDb.
So you saw the finale already?
Yeah, yeah. I won't tell you anything about it because it is too good. I will say, and here's what I'm going to tell you: I may intentionally do misdirects
Okay.
about who I think is sus.
Okay.
That may not play out in the larger thing.
Yeah, because there's a lot of interesting theories floating around, and I didn't notice any weirdness when I was watching the episode, but after seeing what other people are saying, I'm like, well, maybe there is something to this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that you can question, but I really think I mean, oh man. So now, because you can't talk about it without spoiling it a bit. So
Yeah, I dig
we'll
it. I
just
dig it.
leave
We
that
can
at
leave it
that.
alone. Let's leave it alone.
One second. Season 3. This was episode 8, right?
Episode 7, no?
I don't know. Let's try episode 7.
6 is the last one that we did.
Okay. Just
This
waiting
is the
for.
one where they have the Jurassic Park moment on the surface of Mandalore.
Yeah. Why is this? Sorry, the robot's acting up on me right now.
Gosh darn robots.
Yeah. There we go. No, I don't want the overview from Google. I want the IMDb page. That's why I put IMDb at the start of it. There we
Who
go.
thinks it knows better occasionally?
Yeah. Well, no, the Google wants you to stay on Google because
Ah.
that's how they make those monies.
Mhm.
That's the thing. It's like the robot always is trying to keep you there. The Spies, chapter 23.
I think the problem really is that behind every evil robot is a real person.
Yeah. Well, that is true. And one can argue there are no evil robots, only evil programmers. It's like how guns don't kill people, people kill people, which is true. When you boil it down, there's only so much you can do about people.
Right,
But
which is why it's surprising to me that the pro-gun people don't want better control over who can have these guns.
well, because the pro gun people are actually funded by the people who sell the guns, who just want more guns sold.
Yeah, but
It's sort of like
even for them, it threatens their business when they let morons have guns. Right?
you would think, but it's sort of like why does the fossil fuel industry encourage the sale of gas guzzlers, which they know cause global warming and deplete the stock of actual usable oil, when they could actually start being long term about how do you position yourself as a long stable industry. The problem is that because capital moves so easily, I mean, this is the basic problem with capitalism, is that because capital moves easily, people often are moving capital without a long-term goal but a short-term strategy. Because you have a short-term strategy, you're no longer concerned about the long-term goal. You know that eventually someone's going to get caught holding the bag at the end of the Ponzi scheme, but you don't care, because you got out quickly.
Right.
And global warming, that's just a big Ponzi scheme. Legislation against gun ownership, that's another part of the Ponzi scheme. It's like the idea, yeah, eventually someone's going to come in and say, hey, this is all worthless now. You can't do this anymore. And they take away your ability to make money on it. But as long as you got out before then, you got all your money right where you left it, That's the trick. And that's the problem with easily manipulatable capital.
Yeah.
which ironically was not a problem before computers. Basically, when you had to physically move money and physically do like actual work, like even just sending a letter of credit back and forth, money moves when money moves slower, capitalism worked a lot better.
Yeah.
Once you start exacerbating the speed of capital, that's when capitalism starts to have the wheels come off the engine. Although one could argue that the wheels had come off the engine centuries before when we had child laborers in sweatshops. So, it's a give and take. It's a give and take on all sides, but it's like there's that perfect clearing point, to use an economic term, when money is moving slow enough and labor is moving fast enough that you can actually reach the equilibrium of success and prosperity. And then after that, things just start to you can still have success and prosperity, but it starts to be at a short-term model rather than that long-term growth model. And that's
considering everybody. It might be real nice long-term for you and yours.
Well, I mean, really nothing that has a U in it is ever long-term. And especially not when you add into yours, because, at a certain point.
I'm just saying, if you look at families like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and whatnot, they've gone pretty good at it.
Well, they got in early. They were at the bottom of the pyramid, or at the top of the pyramid. Yeah, that's how that works. Which is weird because, like, who builds a pyramid from the top down? But still, that's the idea. It's like they got in early. They were the first, like, big capitalists. They moved their money slowly and wisely and strategically, and they built their fortunes, which has now been dispersed over like thousands and thousands of family members, which is fine, as you do. And and each, like, it's like being a Rothschild is not being a Rothschild in the 2020s is not the same as being a Rothschild in the 1920s or the 1820s. There was a time when that was the concentration was great. Now, being a Rothschild in the 2020s, it's like, you make a good living. You're very, very comfortable. You don't work for a living. The money does all the work. But the idea of being a generationally wealthy threat to a state, that's now held by certain individual short-term corporations, which is really why the world's a bit more chaotic now, because like the corporate structure is far more chaotic now as well. But that's why empires fall. Yeah, if nothing else, that's what Star Wars is really all about, is how different structures grate at different other structures, and then because of the flow of capital, lead to destructions and political maneuvering that just, rise and fall everything repeatedly. And we see that a lot in this episode. So without further ado, Mozz, let's start the show. Avast, me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I be your Captain Charlie, the Professor Esser. And with me, as always, is me skinny rich friend and first mate.
It's Mozz.
Welcome, Mozz, and welcome to our galaxy far, far away, a galaxy of capes and lunatics, gods and monsters, where one clan seeks to rebuild, but are among them lay the Spies, Chapter 23, Season 3, Episode 7 of The Mandalorian, The Spies. Director this week is Rick Famuyiwa. Apologies if it's not. Famuyiwa. Jon Favreau, of course, gets a good old writing credit. Dave Filoni is getting one on this one too. Both get that co-written by. Jon Favreau gets the created by, and George Lucas gets I Made It All. And created by credit. This is an interesting episode. This opens up with, I believe, our good friend Grief Karva,
Mm.
uh, with his protocol droid worried about an Imperial invasion.
And lo and behold,
And, yeah, but he has to correct him. Says, no, that's a captured ship. Look at the markings. These are our good friends, the Mandalorians. Which is actually kind of nice and sweet in its own structure. The idea that, this outlaying principality is welcoming the Mandalorians as this group that is beneficial to them. There are parallels within this in certain structures in medieval society where when you had local principalities, certain groups would be welcomed because they provided a service, whereas in other cultures, those groups would be outcast. So I do find it interesting here. He's very welcoming to the Mandalorians. But we have to imagine that Mandalorians, by and large, in society, are seen as somewhat of the dregs of society. They are. We've
I
seen
always
that.
got the sense they're looked at like samurai, like roving A-teams, roving from town to
Well,
town, solving people's problems. Mandalorian does, I mean, I haven't seen a Mandalorian do anything bad in a while. Most times you see Mandalorians, they're just like helping people out. I mean, yeah, they'll take a call from here to
unless
there,
you're the
but
one the bounty's on.
huh?
Unless you're the one the bounty's on, or your family's the one the bounty's
Yeah,
on.
well,
And
then you're
in
a
our
bad
last,
guy. That's understood. But like somebody with
well,
a fledgling town, I think would be welcoming to the A-team.
well, except in the last episode we saw, two young lovers, star-crossed, pulled apart by the Mandalorians.
Yeah, but that's
That's the
affecting
thing.
like two people, and I'm sure on the other side of that equation were a set of parents going, "Oh, thank you for bringing our kidnapped son back."
Well, except he wasn't kidnapped; he left willingly, and
Eh,
that's the well, no, that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like when you can pay for muscle,
hmm,
that muscle often doesn't care why they're being paid.
no,
You know, and that's the thing. It's like they know that they're coming in to do what they do best, and what they do isn't pretty, but that's their way, and they
yeah,
don't
but I
ask
mean,
questions.
it almost seems like it's their reputation that solves the situation, and the trust that they have in the honor of the word of the Mandalorian to say, okay, yeah, they're not gonna like kill him or whatever. They're just okay, we can trust their word. Go ahead, go back home. We'll find our way to each other again. But right now, this situation is at an end, kind of deal. Um,
Yeah, and that is fair, and that is fair for the Mandalorians that they do have that code of honor running through them. But I would imagine it is also one of those situations when you don't need a Mandalorian,
hmm,
having Mandalorians close by can be scary. Because obviously they are vicious, they are powerful samurai.
hmm.
And, as much as the guy next door with, 400 guns may not be a threat, sometimes you worry about the guy who feels he needs to have 400 guns in his house for no particular reason.
Right.
And let's hope that
But I think the thing with the Mandalorians,
that's
I think the thing with the Mandalorians is that they have a code that they follow so astringently that you can reason with them, right? So
yeah.
you can't. I mean, so it's always that paladin.
Well, the ones we've seen do. And it should be noted that Boba Fett followed no code.
He's still
And that I think is, that's the thing that I think where it gets complex is that there's more than one kind of Mandalorian. It
mm,
only takes that one bad Mandalorian that you meet to ruin Mandalorians for everybody.
mm.
And that I think is maybe even that deeper, complex question. As things get spread out, that, oh, well, you know what? Yeah, you're a good Mandalorian, but how many good Mandalorians do we meet? But in this case, the Mandalorians are welcome. And they come in and they are having their meeting. We actually see that this is This is now very much Bo-Katan's story. Because this is about her merging these two tribes, these two very disparate tribes, and how they don't, they have too many differences. At least that's the feeling. There's too much difference between us that we can make peace as Mandalorians. And I think that is in many ways a common theme in most, cultures, that you will have a stratification of any culture, and suddenly you have, oh, well, we don't want to be associated with you because you make up your own rules or you play the game slightly different, which we actually see an example of later on, where how these two people play a game of chess becomes the grounds for a major dispute, because one person plays in a way that they learned in their cohort, and the other person plays the way that they learned in the proper style, perhaps.
Well, one could say one is the original style and one is the modified modern version.
Or it could be like D&D, where there's nothing in the rules that says a dog can't play basketball. But the person who says, look, I play basketball on, Coruscant, this is how you play basketball. We don't have dogs playing basketball, but it's like, no, man, if you're just playing and you say, well, technically the rules say that you can do this when you do that, then this does work out. And you see it all the time about like people who are like applying modern thinking to D&D structures. It's like, well, if you use a bag of holding to do this and you turn it inside out and all these kind of things, it's like all these structures that you can build into the story that change the relationship to the game, that people who are very rules accountants or even people who study strategy maybe don't always think about, because they're operating within certain strategies that this is, because it's a more fluid strategy, circumvents. I don't know if you watch. I don't know if you're watching Picard.
No.
Right now, or if you ever watched Next Generation.
Oh yeah.
But there's an episode of Next Generation where like Data has to fight. Doesn't fight, but he's playing a game against this in this super complex strategy game. And the first time, of course, he plays against the living person who's like the 8 millionth level supreme master of the game. He like beats him in like 20 seconds, and everyone's like wondering what happened. He's like, well, he beat me, Then they play later at the end, and Data just plays it differently, where eventually the guy just resigns. And the guy says, I will not play this. This is a pointless game. And he walks away. I resign. And, they say, how did you beat him? He says, I didn't beat him. I just changed my strategy. Instead of playing to win, I was playing to draw. And because he didn't want to draw, he couldn't allow himself to draw, so he had to resign, because technically we could play like that forever and I don't eat. And it's just this interesting idea. And he says, I didn't beat him, I busted him up. I affected him psychologically. And that comes again in the most recent Picard. Well, not the most recent, one of the more recent Picards, where there is a confrontation between Data and Lore, where I feel that's exactly the strategy that Data employs, where he realizes, I'm not playing to win. I don't want to win. Winning isn't the point. The point is to draw. And that's how we win. So in this case, and again, this is getting a bit ahead of ourselves, but you have this structure of how a game is played can cause all sorts of problems within any group.
I guess the
Especially,
analogy I would use is like poker, right? There's the game itself, the cards that you dealt, and the probabilities of outcomes, but there's also the intimidation game, the psychological warfare game, the psyching somebody out, and that's a different dimension, so to speak. But usually, people who are involved in games like chess or whatnot, they're generally one-dimensional as far as just what the rules of the game allow, not recognizing that there are factors that can affect that game that are outside of the rule set. And someone who has a broad enough perspective can affect things in the game from things outside the game.
Yes. But getting back to the start of the episode, which is also good, we have this, they make this decision. So actually, and I actually spoke out of turn, we actually open up on Coruscant. And our little spy for the Empire. Trying to remember her name. I still say she's Omega, but we're not. People aren't ready to accept that. But Elia Kane. Elia Kane meets, and again, just to show the ineffectiveness of the New Republic, a floating Imperial droid is just wandering around the back alleys because they don't got time to chase down every droid on Coruscant. Which also makes you think that there probably were like millions of Imperial droids that just everyone ignored, that were just like, well, we'll just wait over here till someone gives us an order to do something. It's like droids do have self-preservation, but this droid, has the conversation with Moff Gideon. Well, this droid facilitates the communication with Moff Gideon. It's the first time we see Moff Gideon back. Kane basically says, yeah, the pirates just got stomped. And she was like, and he's like, what? Your last mission said that the New Republic wasn't going to help Navarro against the pirates. And they said, well, yeah, that's what happened. But it turned out the Mandalorian factions got to that Bo-Katan and Din Djarin and his cohort came and retook the planet for them. It's like, but those two Mandalorians don't ever talk to each other. How is this possible? It's like, yeah, I know, but it happened, dude.
And some people using that moments, the way that he says, which Mandalorians? Like, oh, the Mandalorians that are on my payroll, those Mandalorians?
Yeah. Well, he knows it's not the ones on his payroll. That's the thing.
Or like people are saying that, using that to justify that the armorer is his spy.
Yeah, but again, like I said, and again, that's the thing. And like, to me, this is why my own theory on who the second spy might be was Axe Woves. Because in this, we do have Axe Woves being the one person that actually did have a connection to an ex-Imperial. And that is, of course, Mr. Bombardier. On the planet Plots. And so if you were going to have a betrayer Mandalorian, he's the most likely. Because we also see that he's also the first one to peel off when they start to get attacked.
It seems to follow Moff Gideon's MO, though, because he targeted Bo-Katan for subverting her to his side. And he would seem like if he wanted to affect change, he would go after the person that was their de facto leader, spiritual leader, whatever.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it's and this, I think, is where the problem with the armorer as a villain comes out. Is the armorer, for anything you want to say about the armorer as a religious zealot, she actually believes in the way.
Right. I would really hope that it's not her.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it is, and I will defend her with my dying breath on this subject, because I think that she is all about the
The way.
stability of the Mandalorian people. She wants to see the Mandalorian people return home and rebuild. That's her goal,
I also
because yeah,
so no, sorry. I guess we'll get to it when we get to the planet side.
I mean, we just started here, but this is where it's good, because of course, Bo-Katan, and we get the big feast. And yes, I'm sorry for those who weren't aware. Those foundling bird creatures, at least one of them wound up as lunch.
It
At
had
the
to be
big
that thing,
feast.
right?
Yeah, it had wings. I was rewatching it today, and as I'm watching it on the speak, it's like, yeah, unless there was another big bird creature,
Yeah, if you've ever
maybe two
trussed a chicken
others.
with the wings back like that, then that's what that was.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if they ate all three, but they definitely ate one. But that's showbiz, man.
The
I mean,
way?
that's this is a beast. This is a beast. And to be fair, these beasts ate more than a few Mandalorian younglings or foundlings. So honestly, there may have been thoughts in that, like, yeah, we could train them and ride them,
Yeah,
but
but
you know what? I kind of want to
such
eat
is
them.
the nature of existence. So who am I to
Exactly.
argue with billions of years of evolution? Hey,
Yeah,
who's to
and
set the dust?
as Benjamin Franklin once said, "Why should I be more moral than fish?" You know, um, because Benjamin Franklin was once a real strong vegetarian, and then he was on a ship for a long time, and they were running out of food, and so the sailors started casting out to catch fish. And you notice when he was cutting up the fish that there was within the fish smaller fish. And he said, "Well, why should I be more moral than a fish? If the fish can eat fish, then I can eat fish." And so, if you're
That's a dang good argument, man.
yeah, well, but that's the idea. If you are a Mandalorian and these creatures ate us, why should we be more moral than them?
Yeah.
Yes, it might be great
You
to
think you're better
train
than
and
me?
well, because that's it. It's also long term thinking versus short term thinking. Sure, we could raise them. Sure, we could tame them, and we could ride these mighty eagle beasts into battle. But you know what? I'm hungry now, and so let us partake. And so we have the great feast, and then then Bo-Katan does her big pitch.
Hmm.
And I think just before this is when Din Djarin basically says, I'm your ride or die till the end. Your story isn't yet finished.
Yeah, and has nothing to do with the dark saber. I follow you. We follow you because of who you are, right?
Exactly, because that's the thing is Din Djarin doesn't care about the dark saber,
Right.
and a lot of people don't, because it's like, if you want to get caught up on the ritual is great to say the dark saber leads us,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you know, it's just a toy. It's just a weapon.
It's just
And yes,
a tool. It's just a
you have
utensil.
to you have to take it, and you have to prove some worthiness to take it. But at the end of the day, it's not the weapon we follow, it's the story of it. It's the worthiness of the story. And at this
And
point,
to
she
him,
has
he's saying
proved her
it's
worth.
not even the story, right? I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
story is good. It's a nice story to cling to have hope. But if you really think about the logistics of it, does what do these people think is going to have their best shot at retaking Mandalore or returning to glory or unifying their
Yeah.
people? It's not the sword. It's because they think you can actually do it. You make the
Mm-hmm.
sword mean something. Like if
Well,
they
yeah.
that somebody wielding the sword could actually accomplish these things, the dark saber would mean nothing. I mean, it would mean something, but everybody deep inside would know that it's a hollow promise. But
Mm-hmm.
because it's you, people are rallying because it's a confluence of prophecy with something that they can sink their teeth into and say, yeah, I can see this happening. I can envision this.
Exactly, and I do think that is 100% the point of the story there. But she gets, you know, and of course, Din stands up, and then you get a couple other of his cohort, and then you start getting the people from Axe-Wove's cohort standing up. Please don't while we're doing this. Can you wait till we're done? Okay. Tristan's going to try and play VR, so we get if the Wi-Fi blows up, that's why.
Okay.
Yeah, blame me. Always will. Anyway, moving right along. Yeah, but you get the two cohorts actually coming together, and that leads them to Mandalore. That leads them to the big thing. They meet the last remaining Mandalorians, the ones that have fought since the Empire destroyed them all, the ones that have stayed. And those, I think, are some of the most interesting characters we could imagine, because they are just like, they are beat the F down, but they are still Mandalorians, and they are there, and they are, we never swayed from my promise to you. And then we find out exactly how Moff Gideon got the Darksaber. And
it with mind games.
Oh, honestly, he cheated, is what I'll say. It's like, you're gonna tell me that, oh, he just gave her the freaking Darksaber, and then you hear how he got it, and it's like, F that.
No, but at the same time, that's another example of your hand doesn't matter. I beat you, the person.
Yeah.
Thought your hand was good enough to beat me. Doesn't matter what hand I have. I'll beat you as a person. He out psychologicaled her, and he played a game that she didn't even realize they were playing. And he did fair and square. It doesn't have to be in combat, like physical martial combat. You can play combat of a different sort. He was playing in 5 different dimensions, and she was single dimension focused, and she got bested.
But more to the point, he then went back on his promise.
Well, yeah, no, but that's part of the grander game.
I understand that, but it makes it clear you dealt unhonorably.
Oh, yeah. We're right. To him, that doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Because the Darksaber doesn't mean anything to
the game, and he's saying, "Oh yeah, you don't even realize there's another game being played, overarching the game that you're so myopically focused on." And I'm just going to use the external factors here to mess up the game. It's the Kobayashi Maru,
Yeah, well, or it's the, to me, and this is an interesting question, because to me, this is why Moff Gideon is the Nigel Higgintoot of Star Wars. If you watch Ghost, you know who Nigel Higgintoot is. But basically, he was a guy who was a rival of Alexander Hamilton. At the start of the American Revolution, he was a noted military leader. He did a lot of stuff. He invented the, at least in his, the sniper scope, because he was the first guy to think about putting a spyglass on a musket so that you could spy in on someone and shoot them. And he's actually a very cool character on the show, although, because of course he's a ghost, and ghosts have sort of no real power in the real world, in that universe, he's always kind of undone by his own powerlessness. But within the structure of it, it's the idea of someone who really feels they are so important to the war, and then as time goes on, they get forgotten. They get ground down by the history of what is to come. And I think actually in this one, we actually even get this with, we see one of the Huxes here. I want to say it is, but yeah, so we get so in of course the First Order, there is a, General Hux's father, I believe. Yeah, General Hux's father is in this, and he's kind of played off as kind of something of a doofus, I guess, but not really. but but you remember, like, if you ever saw the first, or not the first, but the three sequel trilogies, and Hux is the leader of the First Order, and he's the one guy who at one point went in relation to Kylo Ren as, I don't care if I win, I just need him to lose. Well, except when you're petty, that's how you are, and that's the crux of the Empire, is they're stupid. These are all petty businessmen who, more than winning, just want to see someone else lose, which is ridiculous when you think about it. But if nothing else, that is literally how the Emperor made his bones. Not by losing himself, but by getting everyone else to just want other people to lose more. By selling that toxic thought process to everyone, so that it's not enough that you just live a happy life. No, you have to make someone else suffer. So, because that's, and we see this in memes all the time, where like people point out that, actually Anakin could have just left the Jedi and, married Padme and had a bunch of kids, and, like, yeah, it's, I'm a rich senator and you're my husband, and that's cool. I'm sure we can find stuff to do, just because you were a Jedi doesn't mean you have to be a Jedi forever. But it's like, but no, it's not enough. You have to prove the other guy wrong. It's like trying to prove the other guy wrong is always a mistake, because time will prove everyone wrong. But anyway, in this moment, we do we do get the meeting of everyone. We do see that the Mandalorians who are left, like, there's a couple of them that are still standing, but there's a bunch of them that are like, yeah, we have barely survived. And they're all going, I think, I can't remember if they get attacked by the big Ankylosaurus before or after. I think it's actually before, yes. But before, the armorer says, look, these guys are in no condition to fight. Let me take them back.
Yeah. I think it happens after, because that happens on the ship, doesn't it? Because once the ship gets destroyed by the dinosaur, then they start descending into the actual city.
And I gotta give it this, that Din keeps Grogu with him in this.
Yeah.
Like, Grogu, he's got his new walker. He's really happy about that. He loves the walker.
Yes.
Which, we also mentioned this.
Yes.
yes. No. And that's one of the weird things. That actually, to me, at times, I feel like the walker slows him down.
Yeah.
But he does love the voice aspect of it.
And he can communicate a yes and no rather than just communicating with his eyebrows, right? And he can manipulate the world around him more so than he could before. He's grabbing every bit of fruit that he couldn't grab before. So it's, I mean, like, who wouldn't want to walk around in a mech suit? I would do it even if it made me walk slower.
Oh yeah. And to be fair, it's not like he's necessarily walking slower. It's just that it's got this whole, it's got a gait to it. And later on when we see him with, well, anyway, I won't talk about that. But
I'm sure he can move fast when he needs to.
Yeah. Well, we see him move fast. He does this once he does his Jedi leaps. He is golden once he starts using the Force. It's like he is, which makes you understand that group, the Tridactyls, are a Force-reliant species, because they are all so chock full of the Force. That's just like water to a fish. Force is all around them, so you just you just walk, like, can you guys not see the Force? Which is one of those things where, can you not hear it? Do you not know where it is? It's like, this is the Force.
Right. You don't realize you're wet 24/7.
Yeah, exactly. And so that I think is part of Grogu and Yoda's whole thing, is that and Yaddle, is that they see the Force. It's like their species. It's like, no, that's just the Force. It's just there. It's the same way you see light or you hear sound. when you touch things, that's just another nerve receptor in us, that we see that. And in that, so he is going through his whole thing. He's got his machine, but he goes in with the rest of the crew. I really think he's like the only foundling that goes with them, which I think is interesting. Because we don't see Paz's kid there. Paz is like, no, my kid's not ready. Dinah's like, no, my kid's ready.
Yeah. He saved my butt on plenty of occasions.
Exactly. He knows when it comes time, this kid, he's the kid with something extra. And they go in, they do get countered. Axe Woves flies off because he says he'll alert the others to protect us. To me, that's super. That's like the part that's super sus to me.
Yeah.
Because we know that he knows Imperials, because he knows Bombardier.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Bombardier. He knows Lizzo. He knows the Duchess and her consort Bombardier. And those guys maybe aren't the coolest guys in town, but he flies off. And then we don't see him again as we go down deeper into the ambush. And it gets down to the big ambush. And somewhere in that time, because I was watching it and I noticed this, at some point, Grogu and IG-12 get separated. They're not part of that big battle inside the blast doors. And we see Din gets caught outside the blast doors come down, and Moff Gideon sends in his
Praetorian.
Well, not the Praetorian Guard yet. No, the Praetorian Guard are saved for Paz, because right now we're just sending in
Beskar.
Yeah, the flying Beskar troopers, who appear to just be regular stormtroopers, just given the Beskar upgrade and the Beskar alloy upgrade. Not even real Beskar, because we do see that these guys are going down when they get overwhelmed. But against one Din Djarin, they capture him relatively quickly. They take him to interrogation. And then everyone else, and then the fight starts, and because Bo is actually a smart leader, starts to retreat. She uses the Darksaber not to cut through to save Din, because she knows Din wouldn't want them to do that.
Right.
She cuts open the back, and then they open what's his name opens up the blast doors, and then as everyone's getting out, Paz Vizsla, being just your ultimate heavy, doing what every freaking heavy in every story does, he holds the door. Hodor, hold the door. And he's like, no, I'm the big guy. This is the only reason you have the big guy in the campaign, because this is where I get my time to shine. And I'm going to burn my freaking heavy machine gun, my heavy plasma machine gun out. And then I'm just going to start punching these jamokes left and right. And when Bo-Katan says, okay, we're all through, come on, get out. He's like, no, I gotta freaking do the way. And he closes the blast door and just continues to fight. Bo-Katan respects it. She's mad about it, but she respects it. She goes. Praetorian Guard come down, and he holds his own, because he is still a freaking heavy Mandalorian. He's like, yeah, I get it. You want to fight me, but I am the mountain. And even as I'm going down, I am going to hurt you. But they do get through him. And this is actually one of the things I always note about this is that, Mandalorians fight other Mandalorians, so they know how to avoid the armor when you're trying to kill someone. So whereas everyone else is going for kill shots against armor that won't allow kill shots, the Mandalorian's like, no, you go right under the armpit, you go up over the neck, you do this, you do that. And that I think is a really beautiful bit of fight choreography about how the different people approach it. But the Praetorian Guard's like, yeah, no, we know we are the Praetorian Guard. We even see at the beginning of this where he actually specifically requests the Praetorian Guard, because obviously that's your that's your Chekhov's Praetorian Guard.
Right, those
We
are your
said it in
special
the
forces.
first scene. Yeah, we're going to use them now. And they do, in fact, beat Paz Vizsla. And that is, it's a tragedy.
But it's a good death.
It is the most noble of deaths in Star Wars. It's like nobody gets a death that good.
Yeah.
Like even Obi-Wan Kenobi, with his strike me down and I'll become more powerful than you can imagine, isn't as good as Paz Vizsla's death. I want a freaking Paz Vizsla's Force Ghost to show up at some point now. Just because it's like, no, I died with honor. But probably for the Mandalorian, so you died with honor, you go to Sto-vo-kor or someplace. It's like, there's a place for you to go once you've died saving all of your friends and all of the other followers of the way. And that is his death. And nothing more honorable than that. Assuming there's life after death, which by the Star Wars canon, we know there actually is.
Right. Where else would Force Ghosts go when you don't need them?
Exactly. It's like, no, there's a place. There's a place for all the Mandalorians. Like, yeah, right over here. But you probably had to be infused with the way to do it. That's the thing. Just like you have to be infused with the Jedi, the Force. You have to know what you're doing to be one that goes beyond death. That's the trick. That's the difference between heaven and hell. There is no hell in Star Wars, but there is non-existence. But if you follow the way, you can continue, which is its own special kind of hell. And this is how we end it. This is a dark end, man.
Yeah.
That is heavy, and I am here for it. I'll be honest. I liked it. I liked that it ends so dark, because it's like it's Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
When in doubt, go back to Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Or not Return of the Jedi. Empire Strikes Back.
The sacrifices make the end goal mean something more.
Well, exactly. We needed those, and I really liked what happened here. I really liked the story. Do you have any final thoughts on the story, Mozz?
No, I can't wait to watch the finale now.
Yeah, do it as soon as you can. I highly recommend it. It's fun to watch. It's a good episode. It follows. If you want, I'll be back from West Virginia sometime on Sunday, so maybe we can do something later on Sunday, unless you want to do it Saturday when we're at the hotel. But we'll figure it out. We'll discuss it and we'll figure it out. But as it stands, this was the penultimate episode. Take a drink, folks. Oh, do you have a drink? Well, take a. There we go. Take a drink. This was a good episode. Folks, if you'd like to talk to us about this episode, if you'd like to write to us about this episode, write to us at CapesandLunatics@gmail.com. That's all spelled out. Call us at 614-382-2737. Give us your thoughts. That's 614-38-CAPES, spelled out, if you remember how phones used to have letters on them. Back in the old days, like, okay, Grandpa, phones used to have letters. I understand. Kids today don't know. But yeah, give us a call. Let us know what you thought. We'll play it on the air. We'll play it on the air before we air the final episode. If you have thoughts on the final episode, which dropped today, let us know now. Let us know now so that we can play it on the air, or any episode later if we need to, as soon as when this will air. And likewise, go down to our show notes. Go down to Linktree, linktr.ee/CapesandLunatics. Buy our merch, connect to our shows, give us free money, because we like that, either through Patreon or the Cash App. And if people do any of those things or none of those things, how can they find you, Mozz?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz. Manzor. That's Mozzmanzor.
And likewise, write to me in that old-fashioned email way, where our mothers and fathers once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet things like Gotham Knights from time to time, because it is strangely enthralling. At Charlie Esser, that's CHARLIE. ESSER. Look for the two E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Mozz. All right, you lovable land lovers. It's been the end of another wonderful trip. Come back again next week as we once again sail full stream ahead. Arg.
All right. Speaking of which, Gotham Knights, that Penguin show is going to be really fun. Did you see the trailer for that?
I have not yet, but I'm sure I will. I'll look it up later, but I'm excited about it.
I'm constantly amazed at like a Scottish actor is able to walk the line of that New York accent so finely. Like
if only he had done that in Daredevil.
Oh, the Ben Affleck one. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah,
hey, can you pause for just 1 second? I want to come back because I want to talk to you about this, but give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Not then. But I honestly believe that had they let him do, based on what we see he's done since, let him do just a freaking New York accent or any accent other than just an Irish accent, which he's not even Irish.
Right.
You know? It's like it would have been a better received film, because I do think that making him this manic Irish leprechaun by the director was a bad choice, and that's what killed the Ben Affleck Daredevil.
I mean, there was a lot bad about that movie. You know, he wasn't even the worst part. Like, you know, when you try to, if you don't prompt someone with his name and you say list the top 10 bad things about that movie, I doubt somebody would even list him in the top 10.
But see, I would, because to me, here's what I'm going to say: Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin was amazing. I think Ben Affleck made a really good Batman, or not Batman, but I do think he was okay Batman. I thought he was a good Daredevil. I think Jon Favreau was good as Foggy. I think that what's her name, Jennifer Garner, was a perfectly serviceable Elektra. You know, I mean, she's not Greek, but
neither was
actually, I don't know. No, that's the thing. I don't actually know if Jennifer Garner is not Greek. You know, because I don't know. She could have Greek heritage. We don't know what her father's wife looked like, and they made her Asian in the new one. So it's like there's lots of levels to all this stuff.
I mean, I could care less. Just tell me a good story and make me believe, and I'm there. And it didn't do any of those things.
Oh, I thought the story was decent. Like I said, I thought it was.
I'll put it to you this way: like people love ragging on what was that Green Lantern movie, right? And they say I thought it was better than the Daredevil movie. It was definitely more enjoyable. If I was forced at gunpoint to watch one of those again, I would watch Green Lantern twice.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I'm not. That's always my problem. Is I'm not a hater. I always look for the best in any film, and to me, I would say the only problem with Green Lantern, honestly, I don't really know there's a problem with Green Lantern. I actually thought it worked just fine. I don't,
It didn't take itself too seriously, and consequently, neither did I, and it was fine.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. But I think, what I think at it's one of those things. I think at the problem with Green Lantern was it didn't take itself too seriously during the Nolan era of the Batman. And it's no, we have to be dark and gritty. It's this was before the idea that what if we just make comic book movies? It's this was the pre-Shazam era, where you could just make a fun, not Fury of the Gods.
But,
although I didn't mind Fury of the Gods so much either. Although I will say I did like Black Adam better, because I felt Black Adam was more of a sequel to Shazam, even though they didn't have Shazam in it. And honestly, that's your biggest problem over there, is that you get too much politics. When you have interpolitics in your show running, that's a problem. It doesn't mean that you can't have people that hate each other. It
Right. No,
just
but at
means
the
that you
same
still have to
time,
make sure the job gets done.
after seeing that new movie, I'm really glad he wasn't in the Black Adam movie because it's terrible. And he's terrible in it. Like,
Yeah,
so like I can understand The Rock saying, I'm trying to make a good movie. I don't need your cheese bag, Dorito bag acting skills in my movie. I get that.
exactly. And that's the thing. And to be fair, it's to me, it's like this great joke that when you look at it, like from a historical perspective, obviously people wanted to hate on The Rock for not having Shazam in it, but then Zachary Levi comes and somehow becomes more of a heel than The Rock in it. It's like, where it becomes The Rock just protecting his content, not that I'm the best guy ever and you have to have me in your show. It's funny in its own way as you look at it historically, but there's a lot of Rock hatred out there. There's a lot of Zachary Levi hatred out there right now.
Yeah, I just don't like people who whine and don't take responsibility for their own shortcomings.
Exactly. And that is a problem there. Although at the same time, that's the thing. It's like, I'm sure that Zachary Levi had a director that was telling him to do what he was doing. At the end of the day, it's a director's job to say, no, don't do that. Or it's the editor's job to say, let's use more of that kid that's a good actor.
Right. Yeah, but at the same time, what if Zachary Levi was like, no, this is my movie. I will play the character the way I want to, like a slapstick character from Animaniacs.
Well, unless he has final cut, that's not how the story plays out. But that's the thing. I don't think Zachary Levi had final cut, and I think that's like the one thing I think you might say is a difference is that, at least according to legend, as a producer on the film, The Rock had a lot more hands-on influence in
Black
Adam.
But his ideas were good, right?
Yeah, I think they were. I think they were all
doesn't
good.
Want to work out, says just make me a balloon suit and I'll put in that. And no, don't even show me anything about how this kid is acting. I don't care what the kid I'm supposed to be portraying is like. I'm gonna play a generic 5-year-old in a Mad TV sketch.
Yeah. Look what I can do. Which is not to take away from Stewart, who was a comedy genius.
Stewart was brilliant. That was a high-level, sophisticated comedy painted to look like silly comedy.
Exactly. But yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it's just, but that's the thing. But like I said, I did like Daredevil. I did like who's playing it this hour? All right, it's our tie.
That's why I'm so excited for this Penguin show, man. You got to see this trailer. His mannerisms, the way he moves his hands, the way he nods his head. It's so old school New York, and it's so real, but it is sort of exaggerated and stretched a little bit for effect, but you don't mind it. It still feels natural. It still feels real, and I'm blown away every time to know that that's Colin Farrell underneath there with the way he's. And it's really easy to make the New York accent kitschy and like you want some coffee? You want some coffee? Like people take it too far, too easily. But he's so subtle with it. It really feels real. I'm blown away, really.
I know. Well, and I knew Colin Farrell was great in this role from the Bat movie. It's just that the character he's a good actor. He knows who his character is. He's embodying the character. He's using the makeup. He's doing classic old school Shakespearean acting, which is like, put me in the wig and now I know who I am. And that's one of those things that has fallen by the wayside so much in acting. It's just the idea that, sometimes wig acting is acting. It's like, you can say what you want about Tom Hanks in a fat suit in the Elvis movie, But the fact of the matter is, I get that. I get why you want to feel the body that you're in, because as a fat guy, I feel my body every day, and that informs so much of my performance.
Yeah.
And if someone wants to play a person, they should know how that feels. And while I know that being a fat guy in a fat, or being a skinny guy in a fat suit, it doesn't feel the same. I know it feels like something. And that, I think, is what is why I never got mad about fat suits. Because first off, it's like there's lots of actors. There's not a lot of fat guys that want to act because a lot of fat guys are shy. And some of us are more geared toward comedy. We don't want to do fat drama, because fat drama is honestly super, super sad.
Yeah.
And if you're a fat guy doing fat drama, I don't know how you'd live through the day. Quite
Right. It's also asking a lot of the audience. That's like some dark despair, like that movie The Whale. I'm not gonna go see it. I know all it's gonna do is make me uncomfortable and make me cry. It's like
oh yeah, well, of course, and that is the selling point.
Right.
I mean, lots of films make you cry. Schindler's List made me cry like a baby because those people all die. That's horrifying,
Yeah.
But it also made me laugh because there's a lot of humor that Steven Spielberg put in that, because he knows just nobody can deal with that. That's why Steven Spielberg's an amazing filmmaker, because he knows all that drama. That's a lot. I do not want people taking their lives after they see a film.
Yeah.
And if you know anyone that's survived a horror, they always talk about the humor, because when you survive horror, what else can you do but laugh about it? That's why horror and comedy are so tied. That's why, what's his name? Jordan Peele is so good at both, because he knows, I'm trying to elicit an involuntary response, and laughing and being terrified are relatively the same thing, because we laugh after we're not dead.
Right.
After
Sometimes
we've
when
been,
somebody's really scared, they just start laughing just because of how scared they are.
That's the beauty of cinema. And that's the real, to me, that's the real thing about the debate about the death of cinema, quote unquote. Because, but the thing is, they're not wrong, because, there's a lot of films that are made, and there's a lot of money given to films that are not cinema. They are often superhero films because, hey, franchise built in audience, but that includes every other genre that you have. It used to be the rom-coms that were the ones that were the jokes,
Yeah.
And now it's superheroes. But the fact of the matter is, they make money. It was,
And say what you want. The people vote with their dollars, and we're here to serve the audience. If it's not for the audience, none of them would be doing anything, right? So if you're serving the audience, you're successful. I don't care what anyone has to say. Your highfalutin standards might not be being met, but maybe the world is in a scary place and people need something simple to make them laugh, or to make them care, or make them hopeful. So to all you people turning up at any kind of art.
But more than that, I think that even in any genre, you are going to find people that are going to make you have feels, even in the most silly of genres. And I think that this is one of the, if you've ever seen the original Porky's, which is your classic body teen comedy, it has lots of feels in it. It has the feels of teenagers in a high school dealing with teenage angst and the difficulties of growing up in the 60s in a segregated town in Florida and being a teenager, realizing this is actually kind of effed up. But I'm a teenager. What am I supposed to do about it? And just all these levels, and about like there's like so many messages within it about feminism and the cultural change that's happening at that time in history. But it's all framed within a body sex comedy, and the fact that, hey, you know what? teenage boys like naked girls, and that teenage girls are well aware of this and also are not opposed to the idea of men for sexual purposes as well.
Hey, man.
And that's the thing. It's like, you know, believe it or not, we are all in on the joke. And it is only this move towards purity that makes us feel, and specifically as an adult, because obviously, you know, as an adult, you don't want your children doing anything that could cause them problems later on. But at the same time, you know, you want your children to live a full and expanded life. At least I do, because I've lived a full and expanded life, and I want them to have the same. I'd be very sad if my children wanted to live a small and cloistered life. But if you've lived a small and cloistered life, I guess maybe that's what you like. But anyway, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, who's to say? I guess.
Yeah, everybody's got their own opinions on everything.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Mozz. Mike, you know, I'm just enjoying talking.
Yeah, no, I do have to go feed the dog, though. It's
okay, like, so feed the dog. I will feed myself because I haven't had dinner yet, and I will talk to you soon Sunday, in the near future.
Maybe Sunday.
Maybe Sunday. Well, I'll see. I'll let you know Sunday when I leave the hotel and how we're moving.
Oh, so probably Wednesday.
Let's yeah. Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Figure. Sounds good.
Right on.
We'll shoot for Wednesday.
Have a great night.
All right.